Happy Friday. What is this music? Oh my god. Pretzel music. In a zombie apocalypse, we'd let sexy in our group. That's not really advice. I don't know where they're going with that one. Happy fucking Flitz Friday. What's going on? Hello. Yerf Dog, Dakin. Zueljin with the host. Malgasm, Maggot Spawn. Dakin, you're not going to be able to watch because you got to go back to school. Brother gave you his Netflix account. Ooh, nice. Dakin, words. Thanks for popping in, Dakin. Do I have everything ready to go? Hello? Hey, it works. Hey, it works. Is my camera in the right place? Camera's good. Cats didn't break it again. Do I have all my windows in the proper positions? I'm missing one. This window goes there. I lost my chat window. Dude, guess what? We've got a guest. A major celebrity gonna come on and talk to us about dreams and aspirations. I don't know. Magic and vision, and I'm making things up. What's up, Chad Zerker? Thank you. This is the salmon pink jacket. Salmon. Oh, good. McLaughlin's here. Good. So, Zueljin's going to come on. We're going to hang out with Zueljin for a little bit. And we're going to ask deep, meaningful questions. Probing, deep, meaningful questions that will make no, just kidding. We're not going to ask anything deep and crazy. We're going to ask normal, polite human being questions. So, let's see if we can do this. Also, is my computer almost done encoding? I'm encoding a video. 5% left. All right, here we go. There he is. I see him.
Holy crap, you're loud. Let me see. Sorry. No, it's my side. My side. No. It's my side. How do I even do this?
I'll let you figure that out. Oh, there it goes. I got it. Hello? Testing.
Hello? Normally I can change the volume on Discord like per user or whatever, but I guess since you and I are on a call, I can't? What is this? You know how like when you're in a Discord chat room with someone,
right?
You can just right click on them and just change their volume?
That is weird.
Dude, I feel your voice in my pelvis. This is insane. Hold on.
Maybe I can turn mine down.
No. I got you, baby. I'm going to turn you down in Windows.
All right.
It was almost as loud as that damn jacket you wear. Holy shit, Flitz.
That's very loud. That's like
all you need. You just base that thing with pesto, and we. Serve it with a side of spinach, and we good.
I like to turn my clothes up to 11.
Dude, I'm feeling it, bro. Listen, I'm not a pink person. I'm just gonna call it salmon.
Yeah.
You are styling though, and it's matching. You got is that navy on your collar?
It's navy.
Velvet.
It's old.
Suede?
It's polyester. I dress like a 70s pimp. A lot of people may not know this, but I dress like a 70s pimp. I model my outfits after Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, I don't think I've ever watched that.
Nah, there was a joke on a movie called So I Married an Axe Murderer, starring Mike Myers, and his buddy was an undercover cop. And so, like, they were in a bar, and the buddy was in, like, this velvet pimp suit with, like, a big, huge pimp hat. And so Michael Myers was like, why are you dressed like a 70s pimp? And he was like, I'm undercover. Like, I'm hip. I'm cool, like the kids, you know? And he's like, you look like Huggy Bear. It's like, no one believes that you're undercover. You're dressed like a pimp. And from that moment, that was actually a defining moment. I'm like, you know what? I want to dress like a 70s pimp because that seems fun. Just dress like a pimp.
Let me see if I can kind of get on your level.
There you go. It's getting closer.
Is that all right? We rocking now?
We got some glasses. I think we're good.
This is about the most psychedelic I could get, I think.
That works. Well, how are you? How's Happy Friday?
Dude, Friday was good. The weekends are kind of chill for me.
Yeah.
Most of all of the work that I do during the week, I get it to where on the weekend I have very light editing to do, maybe some thumbnails and stuff, so I could just kind of relax. We get our nephew over for the weekend. He's 18 months. He's a handful. I really can't do anything at my desk when he's sitting on my lap, and he's got to follow the knock everywhere he goes. So
right.
I do a little bit, and I usually stream on Saturdays, but this weekend I've decided to take off because I deserve it.
You deserve it. You work hard. I mean, you definitely so I won't, and I'm going to try not to keep you too long. I'm going to try to ask very poignant things so we can have
No. I got time. I told the wife, I was like, listen, I got a very, very good fella that he and I never hang out. He asked me to hang out with him a little bit. We're going to do like a podcast thing on Friday. And I just need you to keep that little monster at bay. Right. Can you handle that? I got wine to drink anyway, bro. We good. I got at least an hour at the very least.
Good. All right. So, again, we'll start up with the easy question. What? And I always forget how I ask this. I'm supposed to write these things down so I can remember.
I'm not talking about my dick.
No. Damn it. All right. Second question that I was going to ask. As far as video games, do you have a moment like in your childhood? Like, do you have was there a time where you're like, you played a game and you're like, this is what I want to do, or like a video game moment that stands out to you, or like, what is it that got you into playing video games? Or was it like an always, or did you you started playing and you're like, I'm going to play video games forever? Or was there one game that got you into it?
I'm probably nobody's gonna remember this, okay? Has anybody in chat heard of Atari? The company Atari that no longer really makes video games anymore. So if those of you that are not familiar with video gaming and how old it really is, there was consoles before the Nintendo, okay?
Right.
There were a few different ones, but the most popular and the most, I guess you could say, the pioneer of it all was called an Atari. They had a few different models, but the Atari 2600 was my first console. Okay.
Right.
It had wood grain on it. This thing was old. Okay. It kind of looked like a piece of a dash from like an old station wagon or something. Yeah. Anyway, it took these cartridges, and I remember being at my grandmother's house, plugging up the Atari to the television set and playing a game called Demon Attack. Okay. So Demon Attack was pretty much like a glorified Space Invaders. It was a 2D vertical shooter where these little sprites of different kind of enemies would kind of teleport around the screen, left to right, and you had to use your spaceship, which was on the bottom level, left and right, and all you had is a joystick, okay, one button and one control, one axis, I guess you could say, and you tried to kill him, and every time you killed enough of them, it would go to the next level, and it was just a different variation of the enemy that you just fought. Maybe it was a different color, maybe its bullets were split in half, maybe it would have 2 bullets instead of 1. It was just that. And then I started playing more Atari games naturally.
Yeah.
And it kind of just went on from there. When Nintendo came out, I didn't have a Nintendo, but at this time I was so addicted to video games. My next door neighbor, which was also my cousin, bought a Nintendo. His parents bought him a Nintendo. And I did not have the money for a Nintendo, but I bought a Nintendo game.
Right.
So that we can play it together at his house. It was Metroid, actually. It was my first video game purchase that I can remember with my own money. And we played Metroid until we were blue in the face, man.
Yeah. Now, were you under 10 years old when you were playing Atari? I think we're probably close to the same age. I'm 43.
You're asking me to remember shit 30 years back. I have no idea.
Yeah, so
I am 43. I'm 43 as well, man.
All right, so then we're the same age.
Hot club, baby.
We're doing it. We're living the dream. We're 40-year-old children. It's perfect. So, yeah, because I remember, and it's funny, I remember finding our Atari 2600 package like in a closet, and because I have an older brother and sister, so they got it for them, and because we would have been born when it came out, and so, and I think it was like $150. Like, I think consistently consoles were around $150 until not too long ago.
Expensive back then?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I remember because I remember seeing the box, and I remember it being $149, and because I'm pretty sure like Nintendo was about $150 back then. Whenever it came out in like 85, 84, I'm pretty sure it was like $150. Now,
yeah, Nintendo was up there. I think you could have got a bare bones system like the deal with no game or no controller, but
yeah,
the introductory price with 2 controllers and a starting game, which I believe was Mario Duck Hunt combo at the time.
Yeah,
their first console release was around 150.
And I had the robot whenever I got my Nintendo. Yeah,
dude, Gyromite was dope.
Because you could squish the little guys, and like they would like, and it was thinking about that now. That was actually kind of amazing how they were doing that way back then. Like they had little physics in their bodies that they would squish and not quite. It's like I would always
kind of make a fart sound. Yeah. I would laugh.
It was good stuff.
You remember the power glove and the super scope?
The power glove
was accessory that I never actually owned.
I had a power glove for about a week and then took it back because it was awful. It was the worst thing ever.
It was bad.
I
got to play with one later in life.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Super scope I never had. I had the original gun, the original zapper deal. But,
yeah, I had the zapper too.
I
remember we tried to dual wield them.
Right.
We did some dumb stuff. There was the original. You needed an attachment to split into 4 controllers to play games like Gauntlet. And I remember we were all trying to shoot ducks at the same time. Everybody, I need y'all all to bring your guns to my house right now. I got one of them splitter things. We fitting to kill so many ducks. And I don't think it worked.
I was going to say, I don't think I ever tried that with 2 guns.
Rygar was dope. Indeed.
Yeah, I saw Indiana Scones talking about Rygar. We've had a brief conversation about Rygar because I saw you playing it one day. And
let's play it. Right.
It's so funny because I feel like that was a very underrated game. That's one of those games I remember playing. I remember having it for a long time and never really getting it. And then, like, I think it was a couple of years after I went back and played it again, and like it clicked. And I'm like, this game is amazing. And Rygar, I don't really remember why.
Rygar was a Metroidvania, and I'm going to tell you about Metroidvanias. They are what defined, in my mind, like, why gaming was so cool back then.
Right.
Because Metroid did the same thing. Castlevania did the same thing. You went to a place in a level that you couldn't go forward without a certain deal. Castlevania, not so much, because you just had to learn skill. But everything that came from Castlevania that you needed. Like you couldn't get to this part of it was open ended, right? It was kind of like open world because you'd go to this place, and if you didn't have high jump boots, you couldn't do it. You couldn't go forward, and you needed to go find those in another place before you would move on. And nowadays they have much more sophisticated versions of that. But Rygor was the OG.
Yeah.
What got me about Rygor was I was like, holy crap, they're using the same doors as in Kid Icarus. And I really loved Kid Icarus. So it's like the entrances from all these places they looked the same. So that's what got me into it. And the music in Rygor was dope. Dude.
Yeah. That was
it's
such a good game.
The third level, the crossbow, where when you actually use the crossbow to go to that level, oh my God, it's just so good. So good.
I haven't played that since it was on, like, since I played it on Nintendo. So I haven't played it in many years. But I remember seeing it, you know, I saw you playing it one day on stream, and I'm like, holy crap, somebody else played Rygar? Like, that's amazing. Somebody else actually understood. Somebody else got it. Because not many games really stood out. I mean, it was, you know, it's like you talk about games on Nintendo, and it's always like, oh, Punch-Out, you had Zelda, you had Mario Brothers.
Oh, no. You see, that's where you and I disagree, because there's a lot of games that stuck out to me, but I'm one of them guys that had a lot of gems, like from RPG. Have you ever heard of Destiny of an Emperor?
It sounds familiar. I don't think I'm familiar with it, though.
So did you play Dragon Warrior? You remember Dragon Warrior?
I remember it, but I never... See, I missed a lot of RPGs when I was younger.
That's where it was at, dude.
Yeah, so I skipped a lot of that. Like, Zelda was about the most RPG-esque that I really played back on Nintendo. No. And then I didn't get into the RPG stuff until much later in life.
So much, dude. Destiny of an Emperor and Final Fantasy, and there was a lot for the Sega Genesis in the same type of genre, and they both did that. They excelled at that. Right. Like the action games were great too, right? They were very memorable, but as far as experience, because the biggest thing about RPGs was character development, right?
Right.
And you had these stories that come along with it. So just like when you hear a story about somebody, like, have you ever eaten a Taco Bell? Yeah, I did. It was all right. Or have you ever eaten a Taco Bell? Dude, I ate a Taco Bell. This Nacho Bel Grande that I had was so good. And there was a Mexican couple to the side of me, and they were saying how it wasn't authentic, but you have this story and you remember it by it, and then after that you just like, yeah, it's Taco Bell. You know, it just sticks in your mind. Same thing with stories in games. They follow you, you know, and you can recall them.
So did you have the ambition when you were younger to pursue something like this type of career, like a YouTube? I mean, because YouTube didn't really exist, but did you have that in your head, or like did you go through the normal, you have like 9-to-5 jobs, and then, you know, then you kind of found YouTube and you kind of fell into it? Or like, was this something that did you always kind of pursue things in video games, or?
No. Well, I didn't think it was, not that I really I don't remember ever as a young man or boy saying that I want to be a professional gamer, or I want to be in the games industry when I grow up. I don't even think I was mature enough to make those type of calls. I literally just went through life very, very typically. You know, right. I got out of high school and I started working jobs, and then I went to college and I was working part-time in college, and then after college I started pursuing a little bit more career-minded things, and I kind of fell into video games as a really, really big hobby. In fact, it was one of my only pastimes, you know, outside of, you know, socializing and stuff like that. And then not until, back then when I started watching YouTube, there wasn't a whole lot of content outside of like magazines and stuff for video games. Like, right. When you think about it, at a point in time, you think to yourself, like, if you look at cable television, there was no video game shows. Right. Nobody talked about video games. There was nothing like that until the era of, you know, YouTube really started to surface, and even Justin TV back then, nobody streamed video games. It was almost like interactive chat rooms. Right. Well, when the Let's Play started to develop, what I was watching at the time on YouTube was speed runs of old Nintendo games. I remember I guess the whole YouTube algorithm was at work, and it suggested some sort of video about a speed run for a game that I always had trouble beating, which was Mega Man, like one of the first Mega Mans. And I remember watching this guy go through Mega Man with the magnet gun and being like, holy crap, he's skipping all kind of stuff. How is this dude doing? Right. Oh my God, he beat the game in 8 minutes, you know? And I was addicted from there on. So I started watching speedruns. And one day I saw a game called Minecraft.
Right.
So let's play of a game called Minecraft. And it was this guy that was showing me his base made of cobblestone. It was massive, and he gave it like his own story and stuff like that. And I fell in love with it. And now is where the story takes a dark turn, because he was responsible for me ultimately saying that, you know what, this guy is making all kind of friends. My friends weren't really into games, not anymore, at least by the time I started getting into YouTube and stuff. And I said to myself, you know, if this guy he's got all these people commenting on his videos and giving him ideas about his builds, and it's almost like he's playing with Legos, but he's sharing all of this with like-minded people,
right?
And they're giving him all sorts of feedback, and it's great. It's just, I want to do this. I really want to do this, and I took an approach as a hobby, you know. So I started developing my own channel and being terrible and and doing the Minecraft thing, and later on in my rise to success,
right,
I found out that the man that was a mentor, because I was going to get back with him and say, I just want to let you know that you really inspired me to start this, and I'm doing pretty well for myself now. The last video on his channel was his brother talking about how he was in jail.
Oh, wow.
For inappropriate conduct with a minor.
Wow.
And the story got even darker when I went to research it, and it was actually his daughter.
Oh, shit.
At about the age of 3.
Oh, my
His
God.
wife turned him in, and he's in prison for a very long time. And
wow. Yeah.
So my mentor,
you know,
my origin story is terrible, man.
Hey, you know, at least I mean, not many people can have that story. That's wild. It's wild.
Terrible, man. I wish I had this wholesome story to where I still messaged the person that got me into it, you know, and we would have had the chance to maybe do videos together, something like that.
Right. So now is that where you started YouTube? Is you started with Minecraft?
Yeah, I picked up Minecraft and I started basically just, I don't know, I guess you would say just documenting my progress in a world, you know, starting to learn commentary and doing these little skits and trying to give it my own little personality and trying to learn a little bit about, you know, redstone and building and everything else. And I really fell in love with the architecture in Minecraft, that you could do so much stuff. And the updates made it interesting because there was new features. And
because that's kind of where I saw a lot of your content was, you know, you did a lot of work with other people that I know. So like, that's kind of where I started seeing all these other Minecraft people. I like playing Minecraft on the side. I never got into being good at Minecraft.
That's the best way to do it, honestly.
Yeah. So I avoided, like, I played it a little bit on stream here and there, but like I never, because it's so much time. Like, I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't always see, is how much time off camera that you guys spend prepping or making builds or gathering resources and things like that. It's like, there's so much time that goes into things. Like, you can't, you know, when I was trying to play it, it's like, I can't fit that into 4 hours. Like, you have to have so much more time to prep. And it was one of those, like, if I just want to waste 10 hours in a day, you know, I'd just play Minecraft.
For streams, it's okay though, because it's about the progress. It's not about, you know, it's about the journey and not necessarily about where you end up at on stream. Whereas on video, you're absolutely right. It takes an incredible amount of time because it's such a competitive market, right?
Yeah.
Just like anything, if you're trying to compete with the people that are popular in Minecraft on YouTube, then you're going to be working hard, man.
Yeah. So would you where would you define your, because I say you're successful, you're doing well, you've been doing this for many, many years, and would you say that Minecraft was your success story, or did you find more success later with different games?
YouTube itself is kind of the game, right?
Right.
Well, and not just YouTube, because once you figure out that how volatile, the and how sporadic your hills and valleys can be in terms of revenue on YouTube, you quickly figure out that you have to start saving an immense amount of money, and you have to diversify a little bit too, because if you put all your eggs in one basket, I hate to use that phrase, but it's true.
Right.
Then it's likely to fall to pieces. And honestly, the only reason that I can give myself success on the channel is because of games, but it's the mentality that I developed by growing.
Right.
See, I think my growth spurt between Minecraft and Ark versus the beginning in Minecraft, if it would have happened in reverse, it would have been really, really difficult for me to know what to do, because Slipgator can probably attest to, like, he and I, it moved so fast when we got into Ark, we didn't know what was happening.
Right.
We barely knew what was going on enough to know that we just had to milk it while it was available, and we were both being very smart with our money. I got paid more doing Ark Survival Evolved in 1 month than half my previous year's salary.
Wow.
At my jobs. Like, it was absurd. So when I didn't make that much doing Minecraft, although it gave me, like, the aspirations that I had by developing some sort of income doing Minecraft was good enough to make me say, okay, if I'm gonna make this happen, like, it gave me enough confidence to know that it was work.
Yeah.
And that I really had to work on it, and I had to budget and stuff like this. If the first check I ever had from real YouTube money was as big as the biggest one I ever got from Ark, I would have been one of those rags to riches stories that you see on A&E, whatever happened to MC Hammer? Oh, he just spent all his damn money. That would have been me, because I would have had no idea about what it took to actually sustain an income outside of, like, just going to work.
Yeah.
It's kind of like running a business. So it's crazy.
And I know, because you kind of touched on that too, as far as YouTube being a game, because I know you've done some podcasts. I'm not sure if you're still doing the podcast, but I know you've done a lot of work and attempted to help people in understanding how to grow and how to network, and, like, I've noticed you seem to pay a lot of attention to the inner workings of social media and sharing your content. Like,
I love it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I know, are you still doing podcasts on that, or did you?
So I'm not doing podcasts because I realized that as much as I loved it, ultimately it was taking time away from the very thing that was paying me. And even though I was generating revenue from it because of things like Patreon, I realized that I was spreading myself too thin.
Yeah.
I still am, but I'm a lot of my outside efforts. I really have to budget my time in, okay, what do I need to do to pay the bills? And then how am I going to spend the time outside of that I want to consider work?
Right.
And I invest the time into something that can ultimately pay me in the future, or at least add to my net worth, whether it funnels traffic into one of my monetized platforms, or whether it allows me to just gain more influence to better set myself up for the next big thing, whatever that may be.
And I heard you mention the other day that you get a lot of response on TikTok.
Holy!
Does that help with Twitch and YouTube in any way, or is it like, does it seem to be a separate, like a whole separate world of like, you have this fame on TikTok, is it carrying over into everything else?
So let me outright admit, first and foremost, I am super excited about TikTok. Okay,
yeah,
it's one of the most exciting platforms I've ever been on, but I do not know how to generate. I do not know how to funnel traffic from it,
right,
as well as I'd like to. I'm trying to do things very, very passively in order not to kind of mess up the organic growth that I have on that. But ultimately, I would love to be able to move traffic over from one platform to the other so it's more seamless. And it's getting there.
Yeah,
it's getting there, and I'm starting to see some results. But what excites me the most about it is that I do see successful examples of what I'm trying to do, and they do it so well.
Yeah,
I've seen small streamers. You know, if you look at Twitter at any time, you probably see things like hashtag support small streamers, hashtag small streamers, things of that nature. Okay, imagine a movement so powerful that creators that stream go from having 3 to 5 viewers to 300 to 500 viewers in a matter of a couple of months.
Right. Would be insane.
It is growth can be so rapid. It's the best example of how social media can work and does work if you do it right. Yeah. I don't know my own formula and what works, because a lot of the content that I'm doing right now is experimental on YouTube.
Yeah.
See, my current YouTube channel is kind of in a black hole. I haven't abandoned it because I'm still producing content for it, but it's very much on autopilot. All of my creative energy goes into other outlets right now, including my reaction channel that I started, where I react to horror and SCP animations and videos, and now into these TikTok videos. And I know a little bit about, if you get to be an authority on anything in the industry, you start getting recognized. You know, so if I become popular among people that follow horror and SCP type content on one platform, my name will be synonymous on other platforms eventually, especially if I mention it passively. Now, if I can kind of figure out, when I get a little bit more following, how to actively promote that, maybe even through contests or whatever, as long as it just gets eyes upon my content, because the YouTube, you want people to watch. Right. You don't want them just to know. You don't want empty subscribers. I'm past that point. I don't want 10,000 people that know who I am that won't watch my videos. I want 500 people that want to watch my videos is what I want. If that takes mentioning it to 10,000 people, that's fine. I don't care if they all sub. I just want people that will add value to the platform that I'm trying to monetize. Now, you can monetize TikTok too, but I already have a grasp of how YouTube works, and I've seen what the revenue can do. So I'm using TikTok as a support engine. I'm ultimately learning the platform before I do that, but that's the plan.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I've noticed that. And I picked up some of that from some of the podcast stuff that you did, with, you know, that you definitely work to understand how the system works, because ultimately it is a lot of gaming the system, and not in a bad, like, it sounds bad, but like you have to, you know, it's like, because I know you guys had to learn all that stuff with everything that YouTube has done over the past 8 years. You know, like they've changed from like, you need a video that's 11 minutes long, or you need, you know, subs matter, or likes matter, or interaction matters, or view time, like all that stuff changes. So it's like you constantly kind of have to stay on top of like, what's the game today with social media. And I know a lot of, like, YouTube, I guess, sucks for everybody right now, which is awesome.
No, it doesn't.
No,
just it's changed. Everybody that you know that you've ever seen that had success on YouTube no longer knows how it works, because they still living in how some of it know how it works, but see, there's an inherent problem with the way the old system works based on the content that you have.
Right.
Everything now is geared towards watch time. It's weighted heavily towards watch time and something that they call click-through ratio, or CTR.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine this. How many people you subscribe to on YouTube, Flitz?
Oh shit. Let's say 100, maybe.
Okay. So how many of those 100 creators do you watch content on daily?
Maybe 5 or 6.
Okay. So how many of those content creators actually have videos in your feed? A lot, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a good number. Okay. So imagine that counts as an impression. When you're scrolling through your feed and you see a thumbnail from a creator and you don't click on it, it impacts their click-through rate negatively, okay? When enough users do that, YouTube sees that as the viewers that are subscribed to them are no longer interested in their content.
Oh,
Therefore,
wow.
people that make variety content are much less likely to have their viewers' attention come back to click their videos because they might be playing something different this week than they were last week. And after that gets, the magnitude of that increases high enough, what ends up happening is your channel kind of gets black holed.
Oh, wow.
Now, the new algorithm is like that based on old content, because I have a lot of subscribers that are probably into many, many different games now. And even if I play the same games, it's not a wonder. But I use this analogy and not. It's like YouTube throws out a fishing net, okay?
Yeah.
And if they catch a lot of fish, they'll throw it out again. If they don't catch a lot of fish, they'll say, we're not going to throw it out anymore. We're going to go to another pond. So ultimately, they just want you to watch ads, right? That's their whole game. They want you to watch ads. So if you're not watching the videos that come up in your feed statistically, they're going to do their best to show you videos that you may click, because they already know you don't want to watch these videos because you've passed over them the last 37 times that you opened your feed. And that's why the homepage algorithm is a little bit different. Now, you can still see my videos if you go to your subscription feed, but YouTube knows based on your watch time. If you normally only watch YouTube 7 minutes at a time, shorter videos are going to get your attention. They're going to show you shorter videos. If you're more inclined to watch scary content, they're going to cater more horror content to you, so on and so forth. And they're going to get you your profile pegged so small, so finite, that they'll systematically be able to show you content that you're guaranteed to watch until your normal time on YouTube expires, and then they got the maximum amount of ad revenue for you. And they do that to millions and millions and millions of users every day.
Wow.
It sucks because old creators drown like that.
So so then it's best as far as, so for a viewer, so let's just speak to viewers. If you're a subscriber to somebody's channel, it's more beneficial for them to click and watch some of every one of their videos to help support them, to keep them in the algorithm, right? It sounds like, right? Like, because if you're avoiding it, then it kind of yeah.
Because watch time and retention are also factors. Because if you were to just click on a video to satisfy this click-through rate,
right,
but your watch time stinks, that signals YouTube that people that click in your videos have an impression of what the content is going to be about, but they're not getting what they clicked on for, meaning like clickbait or whatever. So if you watch, we killed a giant spider today, okay? That's what the thumbnail shows, a giant spider, and the title's like, we killed a giant spider. And you click on the video, and y'all, I had a delicious cup of coffee this morning. Click. An 8-year-old is just going to click on something else right away. Their attention span is already gone. And if that happens a bunch of times, even if your video is about spiders, doesn't matter. You have so many seconds to grab that person's attention, because nowadays it's on-demand content, right?
Yeah.
So now YouTube, seeing that you have a huge, like a number that's saying that a lot of people are just not watching your video all the way through, they're not going to serve that one either. There's a lot of metrics that are all weighed, but ultimately what they want is people satisfied to the videos that they're normally clicking on, and they're just going to show you things that you're more likely to watch through. Hyper specific niches are what wins on YouTube today. There's plenty of examples of variety content that do well as well, but starting a new YouTube channel in 2020 probably involves making sure that people know what they're getting, that they keep getting every time they click on your channel. They're going to get a new variation, the same variation of something different that they want. Right. So if Flitz does content with cooking and you've been cooking steaks for years and you decide to go vegan, it doesn't matter because people have been watching you cook meat for a long time and now it's different. Yeah. That's why I mentioned hyper specific, because just a genre is not enough nowadays. It has to be more specific. But when you think about it, if it is specific and you can deliver that content consistently, you're going to have a very loyal viewer base. Yeah. And that loyal viewer base sooner or later is going to contribute to very, very steady ad revenue for you. So that's the right way to do it nowadays.
That's super complex. I didn't realize it was that nailed down. Like I didn't realize there was that much involved in from the YouTube side of it. I figured now that you say that all makes sense because they ultimately do just want you to watch ads. Yeah. So they want to give you anything that's going to make you watch ads.
Well, it's not just ads. We say ads because that's like the way that that's like give it to them. Honestly, right. It's to keep you on the platform for longer, because when you think about it, not only YouTube, but you as a creator has to compete. Everybody that's in chat right now we're competing for their attention. Right. They could be watching True Blood season 6 on Netflix, which is a AAA production that has millions and millions of users, that has been publicized and marketed by the best of them, and we're competing with that. We're competing with America's Next Top Model. We're competing with all of these productions that people are subscribed to various networks that they pay for to watch in curated format. We're competing for their attention. And when you think about that, that's a really, really steep hill to climb. So when a user does decide to spend some time on YouTube, you better believe YouTube wants to say, okay, we got to knock their effing socks off right now. Yeah. We got to show them we got to say, oh, I didn't know YouTube was this good, And if they're not being sold the type of content that they want to watch, if the algorithm's not doing its job, they're going to go back and watch Netflix.
That's incredibly deep. And I'm kind of glad that I'm glad that this is going to be saved to have this conversation, because that's a lot more intense than I've really had it broken down before. Because I know YouTubers outside of the gaming sphere of things as well. And, and everybody's had trouble with YouTube. I mean, with the adpocalypse and all that stuff, sure. But I haven't really heard it broken down that way before. So that's very interesting. I did have a question. McGloshan was asking, or said, I have all my favorite YouTubers in a folder and click open all, which brings up their videos page. Does that help or hinder?
McGloshan, I don't think that as an individual you can have a negative or positive effect, because normally when an established YouTuber looks at their impressions, it's in the hundreds of thousands. So if even a small creators get thousands and thousands of impressions. So over the years, if let's say you completed that, it technically, it statistically hurts somebody if they get a view of their thumbnail that doesn't get clicks. Statistically, it hurts. But the system is designed to know that. If it was artificially high because you had an army of people that were just possessed and wanted to just do the best that they could for your algorithm, what would end up happening is the system would probably flag you as botted. Right? It would probably say, well, he's got bots augmenting his formulas, and they would probably suppress you anyway. You can't do damage by yourself. You can't. So never feel guilty about doing something in terms of like, well, I'm actually hurting this creator. The best thing you can do for a creator is that if you do decide to give them the time of day and watch one of their videos that they produce, watch it all the way through. Right. That's the best thing you can do. Don't click off of it when it gets a little bit boring. Maybe just go pee and leave it on. Yeah. Statistically, that will help more than anything because it will really, really change the amount of their watch time. Now, you should get the best experience that you want out of YouTube too. So if you start learning that, well, I'm doing this a lot, I seem to be going to the bathroom a lot during this creator stuff, maybe you should just, I don't know, maybe you should just not watch the series. That's not to say that we don't want you watching it. That's probably saying technically you could probably find a better use for your time, a more entertaining use for your time. Ultimately, we just want you to be happy. If you go and watch one of my videos out of the 4,000 that I have on my channel and you like it, that's good enough for me, man. You know, I'm glad you got some value out of whatever I was producing. And you know, maybe I said something in there that I don't know, maybe you'll go kiss your wife a little bit sweeter next time and stuff. I'd like to think that I'm having a positive effect on the world, you know. Changing
the world one viewer at a time.
Yeah, right.
So speaking of, what prompted you to get into the reaction videos?
Oh man.
With the new channel.
So it kind of happened accidentally. When a lot of people think reaction videos, they think of these people that are making these ridiculous faces, which I do. My thumbnails are super cliche, right? But when you think about reaction videos as far as you think about people like watching embarrassing clips or whatever, like fail clips and laughing or spitting their Coke out or whatever. And I have a little bit of a different thing. So I started watching animations a little while back. Mm-hmm. They came up in my feed when I was checking out some Minecraft videos. Actually, when one of the new updates were coming out, I was thinking about getting back into Minecraft. And there was this girl, I forget her name now, but her channel had some really interesting video ideas for Minecraft. And I was like, you know, that's really interesting. She would do some build offs or house versus house. And I was like, this is really cool. So I ended up subscribing to her. And she did a reaction video to something called Gacha Life. Mm-hmm. It was like this little animated story about something. And she had a really clickbaity title. And I was like, well, that's interesting what she's doing. It's not to say it was a clickbaity title like you weren't going to get that. It was an appealing title, like it had a BuzzFeed feel to it, like you won't believe what she told his boyfriend or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, she's on to something here. And the videos were wildly successful on her channel. Her channel itself was successful. So I said, what is this Gacha Life stuff? You know, so I started looking it up and I started seeing that there was animations that people would put down. And it was literally about everything you can imagine. There are animations for everything. And we're not talking about like anime, not the most high quality animations that you can imagine. Some simplistic characters. I don't know if you've ever heard of Brewstew.
I don't think so.
Brewstew is a stick figure cartoon about a guy's life, and he just has some. You have to look it up. If you this is from our age too, Flitz. Yeah, you're gonna laugh. Like I woke my wife up laughing in bed before because this guy he hits the nail on the head on so many things. He just talks about old WWF wrestling and just things that he did as a kid, Pokemon cards, and he has such a raw way of delivering it. It's just great. But anyway, to get back to animations, they're on every possible subject that you can imagine. And I started watching a few horror animations. Now, this is the kicker, okay? Horror shows, a lot of times, a really well-produced horror movie will scar you mentally. It will have you'll have trouble sleeping, as a kid, it'll scare kids, all this stuff. That's not to say a horror animation can't do this, but it's almost like a softer touch to horror. It still kind of does the same things to your brain. It sometimes it shocks you, sometimes it makes you gasp. Sometimes it mystifies you because it's about the paranormal. There's so many little subgenres hidden in horror that it can hit all the right buttons. And animations kind of make it to where instead of just hearing these great stories, you have a visual aid to it.
Right.
And sometimes it's not so much about the quality of it, but it adds so much value to it. I just started watching them, and I started, and I said to myself, I'm going to try to do some reactions. So I illegally downloaded a bunch of videos and I started practicing how it would be to kind of add this commentary. And I noticed myself wanting to give like my own perspective, the way these things would, the kind of feelings that these things would elicit from me. I wanted to talk about them. Yeah. So if there was a video that contained a suicide in it, I felt like it was a great time to talk about how if you're feeling depressed and you need to talk to somebody, you should do it. If somebody talked about a home invasion, oh man, I had a friend that actually got their house broken into, and I found myself telling these stories, and I was like, holy shit, this is how vloggers do it. Like, except I have this influence, and a lot of these channels that I was reacting to had this really, really solid content that not only I was enjoying, but I figured, hey, through a reaction video, I could actually share this experience. And now I finally see what reaction's all about. It's not watching a watermelon explode and somebody getting all wet. It doesn't have to be about that. It's about adding a personal take to an experience that, because if you and I watch the same movie, it's gonna invoke some of the same feelings from us.
Right.
But I can narrate that in a way that you can respond to, and it's very synergistic. And I started to do that with other reaction channels, and I started digging into SCP, which was a whole fictional world that I didn't even know about prior to even doing reaction channels. And it's such a different world in gaming. And my comments are positive. I've never had positive comments before. People are telling me about how I should repair my effing pickaxe.
Yeah.
Instead of, I just spent 3 hours putting 100,000 diorite together to build a castle, and you are complaining that I didn't shear a sheep. I missed a sheep. What are you talking about? But you don't get that in reaction videos. They're like, dude, I love the way that you talked about this. And I had a sister that actually went through this. And it's like, the strangers that you meet in the bar when you're drinking and you find like some bro, me too.
Yeah. You have that moment
over and over and over, and it's addictive. So that's why I'm doing the reaction channel. It's good fun. I feel like I'm reaching people that level with me, and I'm gaining a lot of brownie points with them.
Yeah.
Not just from the content, because naturally I'm not really creating it.
Right.
And on the flip side, I'm actually networking with a lot of very successful channels that produce this content that sooner or later I'm going to be able to promote on a really good level, because I'm going to be appealing to a different type of audience than them, and their videos are going to surface to more people. And it's a beautiful partnership. In my opinion, it's the way that social media should really work. It's a community type.
Yeah, because it is very, because it makes it very synergistic.
Right.
And so is that, are you allowed, like, that was the other part of the YouTube side of it. Are you allowed to use that content in your video? Like, how does that work for having the animations in your video? Does that break any rules, or are they set up to where that's allowed, or like, how does that?
So there's a few different ways. There's Creative Commons licensing, and some people do Creative Commons videos. I said do. So if you license your own video as Creative Commons, I'm free to use it as long as I attribute give you credit, as long as I list your video, the original video, as the attribution. Okay. I don't particularly go that route. I reach out to the creators and I send them an email. You go to their YouTube page and you go to the About section and you send them an email and you tell them what you want to do. And sometimes they have conditions or whatever. But some of them are really, really cool about it. Most of the channels that I reached out to gave me permission. There was a few that did not, and there was a bunch that never even returned my emails.
Right.
But there were a number of channels that I reached out to, because in the beginning, I actually did it wrong. See, I looked at a couple of other YouTube channels, and if you look at the bottom of their descriptions, they'll say something like, if you have any problems with the content in this video, please let me know, and I'll take it down.
Right.
So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so they must fall under fair use because it's transformative. But the problem The problem with fair use is that it's a huge gray area. Yeah. And even though you might have legal defense, YouTube will just squash you. Yeah. It'll just be like, we don't even want to mess with this. We really don't. It doesn't matter if it's legal or if you're right or you're wrong. It was their video. You took it. They didn't like it. Yours is going down, period. Yeah. You get a copy strike. Okay. So if you get 3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah.
Not only are you out, but they can actually take all your channels away that are under you or your business or whatever. I actually got a boo-boo early on, and I got a copy strike. I did a reaction video to an animation, and they straight up copy struck me. I sent them an email saying, I'm sorry. I'm kind of new to this. I figured it was okay. They didn't respond to me. The copy strike just fell off, but it takes 3 months before that happens. Okay. Wow. Okay. Lesson learned. I have never and will never produce another video without permission from another creator. And once you get that, though, it's better because now you have a relationship with them. Yeah. Now they support you. Sometimes you see them talking in their videos. One of the guys that I do a lot of reactions to, Stranger Stories, he's always in my comments.
Right.
Which people are clicking on his profile and say, oh, Stu, that's the author of this video. That's the animator and stuff. But not only that, but he's given me support, and it's so nice to see his face. And as a creator, he's getting to see a hyperbolic version of what his viewers might see.
Right.
Because I don't react to anything if it's good. There's a lot of behind the scenes for me, too. I'll watch a video and be like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Or that was too heavy hitting. Or, man, this one went deep on domestic abuse. I'm not ready to talk about that.
Right.
So there is a lot of that. Hey, Auxiliary.
Yeah, the stories are very interesting. Like, it's very, it reminds me of, it seems like a lot of, what is it, creepypasta? A lot of the stories are very creepypasta. And it does, like, it reminds me of, like, Halloween stories that you would hear on, a cassette that somebody's playing somewhere, and then it was in the call was coming from inside the house and things like that. But there's a lot of those that because I've been real bad about YouTube recently, actually, but I watched a lot of your stuff, and like the stories are, you're like, what the hell? Like what? Why didn't you leave? Or like, why would they do that?
Right.
So the stories are very entertaining, and it does change it when you have a bit of a visual, and I think, like you said, I think it helps it helps it make it a little more relatable, because you've got a person saying what you're thinking, because you're like, am I the only one thinking that person's crazy? And then you have a person saying, that dude's crazy. Like, why didn't you leave sooner? Or why didn't you call the cops? Or, because you're thinking it, you're like, am I the only one thinking that?
And we're from completely different walks of life. Like my friends and I, there's a lot of people that are so different than me, because on the internet now you can reach people at any distance, right?
Right.
So I'll give you a great example. Crash, Boom Bang Crash. I don't know if you know who Crash is, but he is a large and in charge, very successful, handsome guy from what's that really expensive place to live in Canada? Now I forget.
Canadians, answer us. Come on.
The big one, man.
Vancouver,
not Toronto.
Toronto.
Vancouver. Okay, so he's from Vancouver. All right. So Crash and I had many different discussions, because we're from completely different walks of life.
Yeah.
And a big deal is, like, he does not have a gun. He does not own a gun.
Right.
And I'm a country boy, and man, we've been shooting shit for as long as I can remember. Yeah. So a lot of my take on these things were like, oh, if they I'd have shot him, I'd have pulled a gun on him, where Crash would never say that ever. Right. So just to give you an example of how different people from all over the world see my reactions, and it's not like this farce made up stuff like, well, I think I'd shoot him, or I'd hold him at gunpoint. No, it's real. That's how we do shit around here.
It's like, no, we live in the swamps.
Right. And people just see that as like, holy shit, this guy's real. And it's a different take. It gives me some uniqueness in the World Wide Web, so to speak,
Yeah. Yeah, because
So,
I'm from Oklahoma. So my parents or my grandparents are farmers. Like they still own hundreds of acres of farmland. Like I'm underneath this, I am a country boy. And
right.
I had a buddy on last week, a guy named John that lives in England, and we had a very similar conversation about, because they don't have guns, and so it's always very interesting to have those conversations of like, this is, because you're a country boy, I'm underneath as a country boy, you have country things that you have to protect yourselves from at times, like if you live in the middle of Chicago, you're protecting yourself against other people, not wild coyotes or, or nutria or snakes or
exactly.
So because people are like, why do you need guns? I'm like, my parents live in the middle of nowhere. Like they've had to shoot wild dogs, like rabid dogs. Like there are coyotes, there are, mountain lions. Like there's plenty of things that you need protection from that aren't people. And
Exactly.
it becomes one of those really, and it makes sense because why it's such a heavy debate of like, why do you need guns in America? Why does everybody want a gun? Like, because we like to shoot things. Ultimately it boils down, people like to shoot things, but there are situations where you need, you can't call animal control and be like, there's a mountain lion that just killed 3 cattle or, like, no one, that's why you have guns, is to go get rid of a wild pack of coyotes or something. And but yeah, so it's definitely an interesting conversation to have between people that don't have weapons and they're like, that's crazy, why do you need guns? And you're like, I do kind of get it, but at the same time, like, again, being from Louisiana and being from Oklahoma, I'm like, no, you have a gun. You need to have a gun.
It's just what you do.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say that I've been in both situations of being attacked without a gun and being my home being invaded with a gun. And when my home invasion happened with the gun, nobody was harmed.
Right.
When we were attacked at my work and I did not have a gun, 4 people got stabbed.
Wow.
See, that's the difference for me. It's a no-brainer for me. It's not just for me. It's not just animals. Yes, it is protection in a sense, because I know I could have my home invasion. I had every right to shoot that man, and I didn't.
Yeah.
So I already know. Like, I'm one of these people. Like, if anybody gets a pass, I get a pass because I did not kill someone when I could.
Yeah.
I would never be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
If I did something like that. I use it responsibly, but some people don't have no sense. So I can understand why they're trying to push agendas like that too.
Yeah. Because I think it is, it's like I always I've had this conversation so many times with people about, like, my parents always had guns, and uncles, grandparents, everybody. There was again in the middle of nowhere, and me and my cousin, I have a cousin that's my age. When we were kids, we never ever had the idea of like, let's go take our parents' guns. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
never. And because and I know we're touching on we're getting on touchy subjects here, but it's like, I never had that idea ever. It was never like, oh, let's go steal our parents' guns. Because it's like, no, those are super dangerous. Like, we had our toy guns and we would go play army outside. Right. But you would never think, like, I'm going to go take a gun. And I think there's just so many people in the world anyway.
Well, for us, it was inherent as, like, don't put your hand in a fire.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
you just don't do that because there's consequences. Like, you just can't.
Yeah. So it's definitely, I think it's one of those conversations and one of those debates that's never really going to get solved because there's so many different sides of it.
Yeah.
My cat was on my lap and it's really, really hot.
See, and I steer away from this because chat. Yeah, let's relax a little bit, chat. I don't touch on this on my channels at all because it's such a hot button issue, and some people really don't know how to just have an adult conversation about it.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And that was one of the other things too. Like, I think I kind of mentioned whenever I'd asked you about coming on to hang out. It's like because I know sometimes people, maybe they have things not necessarily that they want to say, but maybe like sometimes they want to just have a little bit different of an outlet than having to do their show and having to like be Zueljin. You can be the other Zueljin and be like,
I could be Daniel.
Right.
Hi everybody, I'm Daniel.
Yeah, you don't have to be because there is like
I could be this guy.
There's because there's definitely like a line like of how you want to have yourself, or your perception, like you're aware of your perception to your audience, and that a lot of times some people may go for it or they may be against it, and like I've always been one of those, like I usually don't stray from that. Like I don't care because I don't have for me it's not a career. Like it'd be amazing if it was, but I'm not at that point. I'd have to do a shitty normal everyday job. And so like I tend to not shy away from topics like that. Like I try not to get too deep into them, but I try to touch on them, and then when it starts getting a little heated, then it's like, all right, well, let's talk about something else. Because it is, you watch, it's always 50-50 that some people are like, yeah, that's cool, and then some people are like, no, that's horrible. But it always kind of goes back. It's pick your battles. Like, is this a conversation to have, because there's never going to be a resolution to it.
Yeah, and honestly, the only reason that I choose to stay away from it is that it does become a little bit more of a babysitting job, and a lot of the times those issues are surrounded by a lot of propaganda from media and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people with misinformation in general, or that just don't have information, and the people that feel like they are clued in, even if it's falsely clued in, will volunteer that information. And a lot of people will just say, that are also clued in, will say, no, that's incorrect.
Yeah.
And it turns into, well, now they're being defensive because they're being called wrong in front of people. And it just touches on a lot of senses that isn't really cohesive to what I would consider an escape from the real world, which is gaming. That's what a lot of people do. So there are plenty of channels that do the political thing that are very, very successful. And there are some that use their influence to push specific agendas.
Yeah.
And in my book, all of that's fine, as long as you own whatever you are doing is great. And you can turn it in, you can be successful in all of those things. Look at the influencers in sports, and the athletes and the movie stars and stuff like that. Kanye West doesn't know politics as much as a politician, I'd say.
Yeah.
But that's not stopping him, so you don't have to necessarily be an expert to be able to debate this type of stuff or have discussions about it. And some people find it very stimulating to debate about things like this. Yeah. Personally, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Personally, I find it very, very infuriating when people are fighting about something that a lot of times don't mean anything to me.
Right. Right.
Because a lot of this politics stuff flies straight over my head, and I'm like, don't even matter, y'all. Yeah. It don't matter. That doesn't.
Because that doesn't affect my day-to-day life. Like I can think about, I can think of all the indirect effects that things are going to have, but it's like in the end, like that doesn't. I'm still going to wake up. I'm still going to have bills. Everything's going to be exactly the same.
It changes the way you feel about people.
Yeah.
Like what would you think is if all of a sudden, if you're a Christian and all your friends are Christian, and all of a sudden you meet a great person and you start talking to her or talking to him, and you start catching some feelings, and all of a sudden you figure out that she's atheist.
Right. And then you're like,
it's like just your balloon just deflates, and you're like, man, everything's different now.
It's funny to say that, because back in like 98, I met this girl at a club, and we got to talking, and she's like, yeah, I'm a pagan. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm from conservative Oklahoma. What do you mean? You're a witch? What is you worship the
cows?
devil? Like what?
Yeah.
So it's very, it opens your world quite a bit when you're like, wait, somebody else has different views than me? How do you function? Tell me about this. But yeah, it's because it kind of, I remember because it kind of took me back a little bit. Like I'm not, I don't really focus too much on one avenue of spirituality so much, but it's like that's vastly different than what you're exposed to in Oklahoma. you know, where it's like, wait, what does that even mean? Because it's a church and a liquor store on every corner.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when someone is not in a, following a mildly Judeo-Christian ethic, then it's like, wait a second, how does that affect me?
They're different.
Yeah. Like, how does that change are people going to think that I'm worshiping the devil because I talked to a witch? Like, but it's a lot of learning though. Like, you really do, you learn a lot of things from that. Like, it's good world experience. I missed something, by the way. Indiana Scones said something about crawfish because I keep saying that they're mud bugs, and he said that I need you to tell me that they're amazing, because I'm like, I don't want to eat bugs. I don't want.
Well, I mean, technically, we call them mud bugs as a pet name or whatever, but I mean, crawfish are amazing. Do you eat shrimp?
I like shrimp.
Okay, so let me see if I can compare this in a way. What kind of red meats do you eat?
Generally, I mean, I like steak. I tend to eat things that are more cooked rather than raw. Like, I'm like a medium well.
So would you try a venison steak?
I would try venison, yeah.
So you try elk?
I'd try elk, yeah.
Okay, if you were to try venison or elk, how do you think it would differ from beef?
I can't imagine it would be that much different. I would imagine maybe the gaminess, or like probably the saltiness, maybe. Like, the flavor might be a little bit different, but I think overall...
When you say gamey, what exactly do you mean then?
I think there's sometimes I think there's a sweetness in some cow meat. Like, again, being a country boy, we would get a lot of grain-fed cows, and so a lot of times red meat or grain-fed cows tend to have a little bit of a sweeter flavor in the meat.
Okay. And let me try to break it down to you a little bit differently, something that you might be able to parse a little bit better. Have you ever had a guinea versus a chicken, or a guinea egg versus a chicken egg?
No, but I've had pheasant.
Okay.
Pheasant. I've had pheasant and I've had quail.
You've had duck and quail. Okay, that's perfect. Okay. Yeah. Quail, what do you think about it?
I mean, it's pretty close to chicken. Like,
okay.
If somebody
is it more succulent?
It's been a while, but I feel like, now that you say that, I think it did have a different flavor. Like, chicken was almost a little bit bland.
If it's prepared, if it's prepared correctly, it will always outdo chicken. If it's farm raised, then it's not gamey, okay? Right. Quail it's a much more succulent meat. It's usually much more tender. Its flavor profile is just much more complex, whereas chicken is bland. Like you said, it's simple. You can still have very, very delicious chicken. It's just that if they were prepared the same, the flavor profile of quail is just going to be on another level. Yeah. That's how crawfish and shrimp are. Shrimp is a great flavor vessel for everything, but crawfish is kind of like shrimp with its own thing. It's like shrimp with swag. It's shrimp with fat is what it is.
Yeah.
And you know why ribeyes are so damn good? Because there's fat in them. So bacon is delicious because it's fat. The fat renders in a way that just makes these things more delicious and more succulent. So even though they look crazy,
right?
I really, really, really try something simple like crawfish étouffée. You don't try them boiled right away. Yeah. That way you don't have to look at their faces, okay?
Right. That's the part that gets me, because they're like, pinch off the head and suck out the brains or whatever. I'm like, that I can't.
You don't have to do all that. Go buy a bag of crawfish and smother them with some rice and some onions and tell me that your life won't be different. It's drastically different. Yeah.
I have to try, yeah, because I one of my other friends, I have a friend that lives in Gretna, and he's constantly... Like, he sent me a king cake. I forgot where it was from. Like, a few years ago, there's one of the big king cake places out there. He sent me one of the fancy king cakes, and he's constantly like, you need to try. Come out and like, he's posting pictures of crawfish boils and stuff, and I'm like, I can't. Like, I like fried food.
Fried crawfish tails.
I mean, if it's fried, I feel like I could probably eat it, because you could lie and be like, no, it's shrimp, and I would probably not know the difference, but. It's when it gets into like, when it's like the real bug and they're boiled, I'm like, I can see that it's a bug, and I don't. It's like
it's also messy and it's a lot of trouble. Like, I don't like eating boiled crabs because it's a lot of shit to eat them.
Yeah,
I don't mind. I love crab meat. Yeah. just like the next guy. But if you told me, hey, we're going to eat ball crabs tonight, I'd be like, really? Can I have something else? I love crab meat. If you say like crab cakes, oh yes, let's do it. That's all prepared already. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to like break open the animal and try to find pieces to eat out of it and stuff. Yeah.
Give me a fork to eat, not a hammer, okay?
Right. So, is there any topic that you want to talk about now that you have a free open forum? Is there anything that you never bring up that you want to talk about? I know it's kind of an open-ended question, but is there anything that's been on your mind? You're like, you know what, I'd like to say something about this.
The only thing I don't know. I think the only thing that I have on my mind as of recently, because I've been asked so much lately, because I've been playing Ark again on Twitter. I mean on Twitch, is that a lot of people found me and a lot of my friends through Pooping Evolved.
Right.
Okay. Everybody wants to see that come back.
Right.
And I just want to say that some things are better left as memories. And this is why. I think people are in love with what they saw back then because of the reactions that we had to it, which it was brand new. It was fresh. It was exciting. There was a lot that we didn't know about it. And we were also growing at the same time. Like, it was a very exciting time for a bunch of the creators that were on that server. And now that it's no longer, all of us have been overexposed to Ark at this point.
Right.
Many of the games that we played together, that was also 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
If you think about most of the people that you had jobs that you were coworkers with over the last 5 or 6 years, even if you didn't leave, how many of those people do you actually spend time with outside of work?
Right.
It's not that you dislike these people.
Right.
Like, people's lives just move in different directions. And a lot of people seem to think that everybody hates each other on Poop and Evolve.
Right.
And it's not true. It's totally not. Like, I don't say this for like, you're prejudiced, you're racist. Oh, well, I have a black friend. It's not like that. I raid Slipgator all the time when I can. I raid Maz all the time.
Yeah.
I would raid Drax if he streamed regularly. And it's not to say that I want to do that because I feel obligated or something. I like these guys.
Yeah.
I have an interest in helping them be successful, but at the same time, I can't like
everybody kind of has their own lives.
Nobody streams when I stream.
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
I'm an early bird, man.
Yeah.
I figured out a long time ago. I was like, you know what? This is some bullshit. I'm working a stupid ass schedule for somebody that works for himself.
Right.
Why the hell people stay up late to do this shit?
Yeah.
I'm gonna wake up early and start working and go to bed with the chickens. That's how we gonna do it over here.
Yeah.
And it takes a little while to actually make it work like that, because a lot of people are using their time in the evening to, to kick back and watch streams and stuff. But there's, you can go on Twitch at any time of the day and see somebody got a channel with 20,000 people in it.
Yeah.
Why can't I have a little piece of that? That's all
Right.
you got to ask yourself, and that's what I started to do. I started to develop an audience at that time, and it does have its complications, but at the same time, my wife starts work at 5 a.m., dude. She wakes up at 4 o'clock a.m.
Oh my God.
So I wake up at that time too. And with a cup of coffee or two from 4 o'clock in the morning, by noon, normally I have more accomplished than most people that do content creation.
Yeah.
By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I've just finished streaming. Sometimes I have to wrap up a little bit. Now I could just have dinner, nice glass of wine. I have 2 or 3 hours to kind of chill out with my wife, my family, play some Magic cards or whatever, go to sleep, wake up and do it again the next day. And it's just a matter of getting used to it or whatever. But I'm very routined now. So everybody's like, why don't you collab no more? Because nobody does that.
Right.
Everybody is like, hey, 8 o'clock, y'all, let's do this. I'm getting some caffeine. At 8 o'clock, I'm like, motherfucker, I got my pajamas.
Right.
We relaxed. We chilling hard.
Yeah. So
43 years old. I ain't got no energy left. It's 8 o'clock. Boy, you crazy?
you do see. I mean, I think because we have a lot of the same concentric circles, and it does seem to be people kind of think that there's underlying issues or what or whatever, and it's like people just kind of have their own thing. Like it's not that no one is less friends of because it's like people just do, and because I know like because I thankfully like I for this like I asked you last week and we're doing it, but like I've got some friends I've worked on for months and like we'll see what I don't know, like because being a content creator like you don't really have a lot of free time, like and it seems like because you're streaming, like you've got regular life and like people have things to do, and so it always seems like it's difficult to just nail down a time. And I think people miss that too when they're like, why don't you guys play games together, one of this and this, and it's like people have different schedules, like they have their own things going on, and I think like you're saying, people just seem to miss that, and they think some nefarious like dark reasons and all this, and it's like
I'm gonna go out on a limb saying that some people being flaky on you, though, bruh. I'm a busy man. I'm not gonna lie. As an entrepreneur of any kind, we all know that we work more than most people that have a regular old job, right?
Right.
And it's a schedule that somebody's telling them that they have to work, and it's done in advance. So they say to themselves, well, I have to work from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. That means I'm off after that or on Saturday and Sunday. That's when I have free time. Yeah. And if it doesn't have to do with the family or something else, that's my open times.
Yeah.
And an entrepreneur can pretty much make time. It's about budgeting time. And a lot of people don't do that correctly. But a week in advance? Come on, man. If I can't, you asking for 2 hours of my time and you a friend and it's actually productive.
Right.
Why can't you make time for me? That should be the answer.
Yeah.
Because the whole sales process. I don't know if you ever got any sales training before, but people tell you to start getting yes momentum is to buy someone's attention and corner it and give them alternatives that are both positive that they can choose from. So it's like, are you free? This week or next week? Well, next week. Are you free the beginning of the week or the end of the week? Well, usually toward the end of the week. Okay. In the mornings or the evenings?
Right.
Okay. In the evenings. Okay. Would Friday evening or Saturday evening be better for you? Friday. Okay. Between 6 and 8 or between 4 and 6? Yes, you give them these contained choices, and after a little while, you're just like, holy shit, what did I agree to?
Right.
But honestly, you're basically just alienating what else comes in the way of that. And as long as you can isolate that to a specific space, then it's fine. I have things going on right now that I could be doing or whatever. But at the same time, you have to say to yourself, is whatever I'm investing in valuable? Most people, they won't say, like, this is not something I want to do.
Yeah.
They would rather just procrastinate 37 times in a row and then eventually cave in because they feel guilty instead of saying, you know what, Flitz, I don't really feel like being on a podcast, man. Right. But you know what? I like you instead. Let's hang out and play some Fortnite or some shit.
Right.
And in my experience, that's what a lot of my, I guess, delays I've seen. And I'm not saying people are fake because of that. It's just that's what we're conditioned to do. We don't want to break nobody's hearts, but we don't want to commit to things that seem less valuable than what we normally do or what we felt like doing or what we planned on doing, so that we just take an alternative route and put people off, which sometimes it'd be easier just to say no.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is kind of like, that's kind of why I presented it to you that way too. I was like, hey, if you want to, cool. If not, I'm not going to be like, well, fuck Zueljin. Like, he didn't want to come.
Yeah, you weren't
out.
selling it to me at all. I was, you need to come hard. Like, look, I got a beautiful show. I got a chat room full of people that want to know what your life is about. I want you to come. People have been asking, when you going to get Z on the show? So when can I count on you to come? Because I'm honestly, Flitz, I had a great time tonight. Had a great time. It's been nice talking to you. It's been nice seeing chat, questions and responses. I got to get a lot off my chest. I got to learn more about you.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to do this?
Yeah. That's
what
I'm
I
saying.
Think about it. Yeah.
Everybody should be on this show.
Right. Right.
And I'm glad that you came on too. I won't keep it too much longer. So I do want to ask, because you are in Louisiana, what is the weirdest thing that you've ever seen in your state? Like, weirdest experience, or I mean, because I know some crazy shit goes on generally, like in New Orleans, but like, what is the weird, and anything you can think of, any kind of, I mean, I know that's kind of an open question, but like, is there any weird experience that you've ever had that you're like, no one's gonna believe that?
I don't know, man. A lot of times I talk about weird things that happen to me in my reaction videos and stuff, and I'm just being on the spot. I can't really think of anything. I could think of some very peculiar things that I see every once in a while. We have a no wake sign on my road.
A no wake,
right? As in the wake from a boat.
Oh, okay.
It's on my street. So to give you some context, I live in a flood zone. Okay. I live in a flood zone that in order to be considered safe from the flood, you have to be 10.5 foot below sea level. Okay. I mean, above sea level. Now, I'm not really sure where, how far above sea level or how close to water you are, but a lot of times most people are higher than that, just natural ground. Okay. Yeah. Well, in Louisiana, where around I live, natural ground is about 3 foot above sea level.
Okay.
So in order to get 10 foot above sea level, you have to lift your house. It could be on pilings, it could be on dirt, it could be all kind of stuff. So the biggest flood that hit here in the past has actually gone 10 feet. So that puts most living like my roof is about 10 foot from the floor, like 8 foot from the floor. So you can imagine that entire homes were underwater outside of some of their roofing shingles and stuff like that. So at one time, flooding was so prevalent where I lived, on the street that I lived, that they had to install a sign because boats were flooding. Passing boats were putting more water in houses that needed to be. Can you imagine? Oh, we got too much boat traffic down this road.
Yeah, so I've never heard of that. Like, you know, because I'm in Tornado Alley, and a lot of people just say, why don't you move? Tulsa is like one of the most dangerous places. Like, Tornado Alley is like one of the top 10 dangerous places in the world. And everybody's like, why do you live there? Like, I mean, chances are slim. Like, it doesn't happen.
California for earthquakes. People live in Hawaii because Hawaii's got the highest cost of living in the United States, and they have a volcano right next to it.
Yeah, it's like,
what do you think's more dangerous, a tornado or a volcano?
It's like, it's literally the whole thing.
Right. Like wind or magma.
Yeah. Right.
Blow me, baby. Come on. I don't want to get on. I don't want no lava though. No lava, please.
Did you this is a depressing, deep question. Were you in Louisiana? Were you affected at all by Katrina? Whenever that hit? I think you're probably pretty far away from all that though, right?
My neighbors got a lot worse.
Yeah. I visited my friend in Gretna. I visited him. It was 2007, and he drove me around because he was in New Orleans, like, I guess whenever it happened. Like, he was on top of a building and like pulled his neighbor in a wheelchair like up to the roof, and like, I mean, he said it was crazy. And but he drove me around and showed me, you know, you don't understand, and I still don't because it was already done, you know, but it's like he showed me water lines that are, you know, 20 feet tall on buildings. It's nuts. Yeah. And you're just like, how is that even possible? Like, it's insane. Like, I couldn't even imagine, because also I can't swim, so anything with water, it bugs me even more, because I'm like, I would just die if that happened. If I was in a flood zone, I would just die.
So we all got an influx of population, and the place that I live has a relatively low cost of living. So naturally, we got a lot of people that are in the lower income brackets. And mainly how affected me, crime went up in the areas that I'm used to. See, New Orleans, even though it's like a cultural hub, it's also a cesspool when it comes to like the society of Louisiana as a whole. It has the best and the worst.
Right.
And in it just it's like, imagine if all the freaking hateful people on Reddit got into all of your favorite social circles and started to taint and pollute them.
Yeah.
That's what New Orleans did to the rest of Louisiana.
Okay.
So I really, really, really never had a lot of problems with people in general, but a lot of what we had after that was a bunch of troublemakers that came around. Yeah. And naturally it's because these people were desperate, you know, and they may not be bad people per se or whatever, but in general, it's just like the place that I've been trying to get out of the neighborhood that I lived, because we actually lived in a place. We live in a place right now. We had to make kind of a split decision to move here in the first place. That's a long story, but we've been trying to find an affordable place ever since then. Yeah. And we found a place finally, and it's going to be a little while before we can get in there and stuff, but it's land, and it's outside of a neighborhood, because on my street right now, I don't think anything would happen to us, but I'm not comfortable walking.
Right.
My neighborhood, like, not at all. There's a whole group of people, mostly on the far side down the road, that is just, they're very, very unsavory people. A lot of them are poor. A lot of them, I know some of them deal drugs, because they're related to some good people that I know that say, yeah, they deal in drugs down there. Right. Like, I have a neighbor that fights pit bulls behind my house. Oh, I had this one guy that moved in right next to me. They bought some land right next to me that the neighbor that had some ended up selling to them. And it's a nice family of people, but they do shit that makes you crazy. Like, they bought roosters.
Yeah.
2 fucking roosters crowing at 4 o'clock in the morning on a trampoline 15 feet from my studio door. What? So I turned into the crazy white guy with a freaking piece of vinyl siding in my hand and a fire poker, chasing chickens through the yard in my pajamas, you know? So that's the kind of shit you see in the ghetto, I guess, because things drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Well, they finally know what I do for a living now. His wife was translating for him because they don't speak much English. Yeah. And like, oh shit, you got a microphone in there? I'm like, yeah, it's this big, and it picks up when the neighbor's cat farts. Your chicken is killing me, dude. We got to stop it now. So they're nice. They say, well, you know what? Fuck them chickens. We're getting rid of them. They did. They got rid of all their chickens. Nice. And I feel bad, but at the same time, I'm not hearing chickens no more.
Right. Yeah, that's
it's a hell of a place I live in, dude.
That's got to be, yeah. I mean, because you can't really drown that out. Like, there's no amount of like soundproofing, and when you've got chickens and roosters crowing, like, you can't really block that. Or like a dog outside your window.
I'm gonna give it to chat. That's pretty much what you hear, and you like, how you. There's nothing that you can do to make that quieter. It is loud, dude. Yeah. How can an animal that small make that kind of noise? I don't know, but they do. It's ridiculous.
Thankfully, I don't really hear it, but like, I've got a neighbor that has a goat or a sheep. I don't know which one, because I haven't seen it, but I hear it bleeding. I'm guessing maybe because I always joke about it. I'm like, I want to get a sheep or a goat just to mow my lawn. And I'm wondering if that's what they did, because I never see it. I just hear it screaming every once in a while when I go outside. I'm like, that poor animal.
They starve it and just let it loose when it's time to cut the grass. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts. Well, you know, I think I ran out of good questions to talk about. Like, I don't know if I have any other hard hitting questions for you.
I don't know if I have any hard hitting answers. I'm out of my hard hitting wine, that's for sure.
Last thing I do want to ask you then. I did remember this one from earlier. What drew you into? Because I saw you started doing some RP Arc again. So what drew you into the RP side of playing games? Like, do you enjoy like the being a different character side of it, or is the interaction, or is there Is there a thing, or is it just something new to do? Variety.
All of the above.
Yeah.
When the first Arc RP experience I had was, I was very, very naive to what it meant to do, or I hadn't really watched a whole lot of RP before I got into it, and I started hearing about this server called SKRP, which was Seven Kingdoms Roleplay. It followed the whole I don't even know the name of that, Game of Thrones. Okay, which I never watched Game of Thrones. I'm not a real TV person, but they say it was really compelling. All right, so I get into this, and it's a PvP based server and all this other stuff, and you can't just kill on sight or whatever, but it was, you played with the public, and you'd initiate threats and kingdoms would go to war and stuff like that, and you could fight other people as long as it was as long as it fit the role play, you know.
Right.
So, you know, hey, get off my land, this is my land, blah blah blah, you know, that consent, that's kind of like, okay, we have consent to fight now. I can draw my sword on you because I threatened you and you didn't listen, you know. So, or hey, give me your money. No, okay, that's a fight too. But it has to be some sort of role play that it comes, and it's about story arcs. It's about role play. So the PvP and all of the type of conflict is actually ads, you know, just, it's kind of like playing Minecraft in creative versus playing Minecraft in survival. If you work for something, you feel like you've earned it, and you get a little bit more, you feel a little bit more ownership for it. And that's how roleplay is. Sometimes the way roleplay servers are set up, all the ones that I've played, limit you on what you can do by yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like complete tribe dependency, because if you're not a blacksmith and you want a metal pickaxe, you got to go find somebody to make you a metal pickaxe, or to buy one at a market. And to do that, you need currency. So it establishes trade, and it establishes a need for all the people. They balanced it to where everybody needs somebody to do something. You can't really play solo.
Yeah.
And they have these themes around it, and people naturally gather, and there's these story arcs. Well, my first experience with it did not really fall into all of that. I got into Seven Kingdoms roleplay, and I had an idea for a character that was pretty much an old Pawpaw version of me.
Yeah.
And I just saw it as an outlet to be kind of funny. And I got such an incredible reaction from the people that were watching me. And I had so much fun just acting like this foolish, exaggerated Cajun guy in this weird place that I was addicted. And then I started meeting other people that had just hilarious personalities, and just watching them take steps to do things that were just outrageous, just to get a reaction out of the people around them, including me, that I was just like, man, this is a different way to play Arc altogether, you know?
Yeah. And
that's what ultimately got me into role play. And now you get tired of it, just like everything else, because just like everything, it kind of devolves to a certain point after a little while.
Yeah.
So just imagine you and your girlfriend, okay? At first, when you meet, you have so many nice things to talk about, and things are interesting, and you're going on dates, and you're sharing your feelings with each other. And then, you know, you get to this point to where things stop escalating, and they kind of get stagnant. And then they actually start degrading until to the point to where nothing is exciting anymore. Everything is much more wholesome, but it's not exciting and energetic anymore. Right. And you kind of just end up hanging out with each other and enjoying each other's company. So if a person was watching your relationship blossom, at first it would be like, oh, this is a good ass show right here.
Right.
And if they would watch you now, they'd be like, the fuck happened to this show?
Right.
So imagine trying to make a show and building relationships with people that get diluted to a point to where it's no longer interesting to watch.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what happens to RP. It's a bunch of people that don't go out to get new experiences. They all kind of just standing in a circle and start talking.
Yeah.
So RP just kind of boils down to this one boring ass dialogue that, unless there's conflict, nobody gives a shit.
Right.
So when it gets to that point, I usually move on.
Yeah. Which it seems like that seems organically that's going to happen, and that eventually you kind of wear out your story arcs, and like you know the people, and like there's no new excitement, or like, so it seems like, you know, because I've watched you, and I think John Bain did some RP stuff, and like it seems like you guys go for a few episodes, then it's like it's really nothing. Everybody's, you know, like there's no more new interactions. It's not like it's not new and funny anymore because you already know everybody's characters, and you know, like that. So that makes sense.
It's the art of storytelling. If you have a lot of times you want to just follow what feels right to a certain point and have just ideas, kind of like the way that you don't necessarily give a speech, you just use bullet points to talk about things that you want to talk. You give these characters these personality traits that allow you to be flexible enough to have some fun and to be able to react in certain situations. But at the same time, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into something that ultimately is just going to brick wall you.
Right.
Because then you're forced to either build a new character or stop playing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't want to do that. And plus, all of these people in chat that watch you are now attached. You also lose relationships with the people that you built relationships with. And even though your character knows their character, you've grown accustomed to spending time with this person, and you might like to do that more. But if you make a new character, even if they're the same character, you're not going to have that same relationship anymore.
Right.
And it's a little bit different, you know? Sometimes it works really, really good. And sometimes I can tell you this, I've had the most memorable gaming experiences in roleplay.
Yeah.
More than any other type of gaming, it has touched me. I've laughed more. I've cried. I've been embarrassed.
Yeah.
Which you don't get to say that in games, really, right? You know, you just it evokes emotions from you that you would never feel in real life with that, because you don't get put in situations. As a content creator, I don't get put in situations, period.
Right.
You know, I'm in a fucking box.
Right.
But it's really, really it puts you in situations that you get kind of like the reaction videos, man. It's like, I don't have to react to suicide.
Yeah.
I never have to deal with that type of thing. I never have to deal with any issues that are difficult for me to handle or loss without actually feeling it. Like, how do you role play sad?
Right.
You have to think about sad emotions to actually get there, like to do it right, you know? So it's kind of like those emotions don't just surface randomly. It's because you're put in a situation to where you actually have to get in character for that. And it enables you to experience different emotional levels. Like, you get all kind of hormones doing all kind of shit. You know what I mean? Even things like simple flirting with people that you have no relationships with. Like, you mean to tell me I could be suave and debonair and not really cheat on my wife?
Right. Yeah.
You mean to tell me that I get to be like this sweet Southern gentleman that doesn't have a pot belly?
Right.
You know? and all of these things, it allows you to, I could be brave and I could fight dragons and people could look up to me. When in real life, that 16-year-old next door looked at me like he wanted to whoop my ass, and I went hide in my house.
Right.
You know, it gives you an avenue to experience life in a different parallel, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
You know.
Two things.
Mm-hmm.
The Ultima Online. I know you used to play Ultima Online.
Yeah.
And it's funny you talk about RP stuff. Like, I still have friends that I made in Ultima Online, like that I still talk to, and that game that was 20 years ago. And so I mean, it definitely, like, when you get involved in, and it wasn't really RP. Like, I made some RP characters to change things up and dick around, and but it is really like the amount of interactions you have with people by portraying another character, and then eventually, like, you know, we kind of made friends, and then it's like, wow, this is socializing. Like, this was before mass, you know, like before WoW. This is before other bigger MMORPGs that came out, and it's like you can really build relationships with these people just by playing games. And even if you're pretending to be a different person, like, you still kind of connect with these people on different levels, and it's a very interesting experience. And it seems like a lot of that is kind of being lost. Like, so it's very refreshing seeing RP servers like that, because I think people are still kind of keeping that alive. instead of just getting into a game and like min maxing and leveling characters and like you're building relationships and having dialogue and playing a game in a community way, like in a role playing way of a massively multiplayer online role playing way, instead of just getting on there and doing something.
A lot of people don't get that, man. Like, I got people in my RP chat that's like, how to get a lot of experiences if you build 17 beds.
Right.
And I'm like, that's why would I do that in real life?
Yeah. It's like, that's not
like in role play. Like, why would I build 17 beds? Yeah, now I can all of a sudden I could use an ice bolt spell, but technically, the systems are built in a way that you have to find some sort of progression, but how is becoming more powerful have anything to do with me crafting beds?
Right.
And they refer to that as power gaming, but honestly, like it enables you to do things creatively, and it means a little bit more, instead of just, it's nothing to go hit a rock a few times and get metal and get smelt it up and make a pickaxe out of wood in your own smithy. But that only takes a few minutes, right?
Yeah.
But asking some passerbys how to get to the nearest town without running into a cyclops so you could talk to their blacksmith, and getting greeted by the blacksmith's daughter at the front gates, kind of busting a rap with them and making a little flirt. Finally, dad comes around. You try to impress dad because all of a sudden you figure out he's got a hot daughter and you're trying to get a pickaxe. By the way, you don't have any money, but you're willing to work for him.
Yeah.
Like, that's a day. That's an adventure, man.
Yeah.
That's not just going craft a pickaxe. That's why RP is beautiful.
Yeah. Last question. I know you do a lot of reaction to horror and scary stuff. Are you a horror fan? Do you watch horror movies? Or is that not your thing?
Yes and no. I don't really watch movies in general. I don't watch a lot. Like, you never see Daniel like, oh, you know what? I am going to watch a horror movie. I never turn on Netflix, ever, unless it's to watch like something that somebody told me that I should go watch, or if I'm stuck in a hotel and I don't have access to that, or YouTube is completely dead or something like that. Like, typically I don't watch movies, but if I do, if I'm stuck on a plane, Flitz, and the little screen on the back of the I get to watch a movie on the little seat cushion or whatever, I'm watching a horror movie. First of all, there's light and people all around me, so I don't really get scared, But that's I love watching horror movies. I like watching most horror movies. I like supernatural stuff a lot.
Yeah.
Not low budget supernatural stuff. I like when a movie scares the shit out of me because I saw the fucking devil.
Right.
I don't like somebody spewing out locusts out their mouth and summoning spells and shit like Supernatural, like the little sitcom or whatever.
Right.
I don't know.
So then the last question for you then, what is your most impactful horror movie that you've seen? What is one movie that maybe you have trouble watching by yourself or has stood with you?
As an adult or as a kid? Because as a kid, everything fucking scared the shit out of me. I had night terrors until I was a teenager.
What was there a movie from your childhood that still sticks with you?
No, not that still sticks with me. Poltergeist was what first ruined me. Like, that's what started giving me night terrors and stuff. Poltergeist was the first horror movie that I can remember watching. And no shit, I was 13 years old, still sleeping with a 60-watt bulb on to go to sleep.
Oh, yeah. Poltergeist, I had trouble watching Poltergeist as an adult. Like, the giant tree, the whole fifth. We had a giant tree in our yard. Again, living in the middle of nowhere in the country, a giant tree outside. It's storming, and we're in a mobile home. And every little noise is scraping against the walls. I'm like, that tree's gonna kill me. That tree is gonna eat me.
Amityville. I don't know if it was the horror or which one it was. It was the one where the walls were bleeding and the sun shot everybody and stuff like that. That's probably one of the most impactful horror movies ever. Yeah, for me. But the one that as an adult that I can really say that really affected me, that like really scared me, like I was holy shit, was The Conjuring. Yeah. Holy shit, dude. Conjuring was hardcore. And like the spin-offs from that came from it, like the Nun or whatever. Mm-hmm. Have you ever watched The Nun?
I haven't watched The Nun yet. It's on my list of I watch almost exclusively watch horror, and but I haven't watched The Nun yet. I need to look for The Nun.
You need to, man, because it's they got the creepy. There's always, like, if you ever see like creepy signs and stuff like that from movies like that. There was one sign somewhere. I'm not gonna ruin it for you, but there was one sign that said, like, beyond this point there is no God here.
Right.
I was like, holy shit, that's evil.
Yeah.
That's evil, man.
That's the stuff that gets me. Anything religion and like hell, angels, devils, like things like that. I like that because it kind of feels a little bit more real, like, because religion is very much alive, and whether or not people believe in things or don't, but it's like that touches on a much different level than like, oh, there's a monster that has 4 eyes and giant teeth or whatever. Like, it feels like some spiritual danger feels much more real than the idea of a monster.
It does. And I think we all grew up, like, The Exorcist was the first, like, where horror meets real life, right, in a very impactful way, like a very well developed movie. And you just think to yourself, like, holy crap, it's very believable, right? Yeah. Even if you don't believe in that type of stuff, it's just like it's in a setting that you can say, okay, this girl was possessed, right. Whereas supernatural stuff is just kind of like, I love paranormal for that same reason, because it doesn't have the weight that a lot of religious type horror has. So, like, I'm not all of a sudden questioning, like, my choices in life and stuff, but it still can scare the shit out of you. Like Paranormal Activity, especially the first one, was such a compelling movie to me, because I didn't know what was what, I didn't know, like, is this a malevolent spirit? Is it, a demon? What is it? The Blair Witch was very, very good to me too, because it was this questionable, like, what's going on? What's happening here? And I think that's my biggest thing, is not knowing,
Yeah. When it's like, when they don't really give you an idea, they put it in your head where you have to figure out, is this real? Are they experiencing this, or are they imagining it? And then it's like, how do you know? Like, what? Blair Witch, I have a love-hate relationship with Blair Witch, because I like found footage movies. But I missed the hype with that movie, but there's still something very creepy about the ending for some reason. Like and I don't, just in case people haven't seen it, but like the whole ending was like, because I nodded off and then kind of came to, and everybody's screaming, and then, I'm like, what's happening? What is, like, wow, what? Yeah, there's a documentary related to The Exorcist. There's I forget what it's called. There's a guy named Malachi Martin, who is now dead, but he was an old Catholic priest, and he was involved in hundreds of exorcisms. And they did an interview with him, or like a documentary about him I think he was in Rome or somewhere in Italy somewhere, and it was a documentary about him being with this like 60-year-old woman that had been possessed for years, and like the treatments, and like there was no levitation or like puking up green soup or anything, but it was like, you watch it and you're just like, holy shit, like, even if it's not real, this person believes it's real, that this person believes that they are possessed and is not acting human. It's very disturbing watching that stuff, because there's so much, on the scientific level, it's like, oh, it's, they had epilepsy, or they had some brain disorder, or blah, 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 but then it's like, what if they don't?
Yeah.
What if that's not?
Even if it was just psychological trauma that drove them to that, what's to say that it was a chemical imbalance or something that wasn't corporeal, Like, I grew up in a Catholic family, a Christian family, and I went to Catholic school, and I was told a story about an exorcism from one of our local priests and he mentioned that they had to perform an exorcism before, And he said he never heard a human speak with multiple voices before until that date. And he said, there's a lot of things that you can just try to imagine, but like literally like it was dubbed.
Right.
It's like that, like your vocal cords just can't do that. So if there was something that was like psychological or physically changed about that person that they can do something to manipulate that, then that's still remarkable. That's still, wow, that's crazy. This person is talking Aramaic.
Yeah.
You know, like that's an ancient language. Like, I don't know if you studied it or not, but you're not supposed to know Aramaic. I don't know nobody that knows Aramaic.
Right.
You know?
No one's like, you know Aramaic? Yeah, obviously.
Nobody knows ancient Hebrew.
Yeah.
You know? If you're talking about that, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that speaking in two different voices thing or two different octaves and like, yeah, that stuff is real creepy when they're talking about all the noises that come out of people. And the shit like that, that gets under my skin. Yeah. But that's one to look for. It's I forget what it's called. It's something like something about Interview with the Devil or something devil, and it's Malachi Martin. If you ever want to lose your mind and watch it. But well, cool, man. I'll let you get out of here. I've kept it 2 hours.
Oh, good, man.
But I appreciate
it. I'll just blame it on you. My wife don't know you, so you're not in any danger.
Right. I'm pretty far away. I'm not. You know.
Right. And you got guns. That's enough right there. You see.
I'm just I was just hanging out with some country boy. I don't know. He has pink hair. I don't know, something. Well, cool, man. I appreciate it. Thank you words. Thank you so much for hanging out, and it's good to get to talk to you because we've never actually had a conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, other than just bits and pieces in chats here and there, but we'll have to if you're up for it, we'll have to do this again sometime in the future.
Yeah, for sure, bro.
When you get something else on your mind, you need to get off your chest.
All right.
Well, cool. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for being here and all the success. I'm gonna post all your links. I need to gather your links. Do you have your links handy? Do you want to post?
I have a link tree, boy.
Do you have post your link tree?
Hold on.
Zueljin has Twitch. He has YouTube. He has a second YouTube. You need to follow him on Twitter. You need to follow him on TikTok. all the places.
Let me get it.
And don't ask about Pooping Evolved. Don't ask about Minecraft.
No, I'm not. I don't care. Y'all can ask about all of that stuff. I'm fine with it. Let's see. Copy my Linktree URL.
Yeah, OnlyFans. You got your OnlyFans? Nice.
I wish, dude. That's pay right there.
Keep talking about that. Just get some fake boobs. Dude, we'd be rich.
Working on it, boy. I've been working out a little bit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it. But I hope you have a good weekend. You streaming tomorrow?
I am not.
Oh, you're not? Okay. You're spending you're doing the fan. Gotcha. Well, then check out Zueljin on Monday? When do you start streaming again? Monday?
Monday, yeah.
Monday. Go check out Zueljin on Monday if you're not already. I feel like most of these people should be following you by now. But if not, go follow this man. Thank you so much for being here, brother.
Please follow me on all my platforms. Yeah. Please.
Look at the tears in his eyes.
Love you guys. Bye.
All right. Thanks, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. Welcome back. It's me. Follow him on the YouTubes. Thank you. Big shout out to frickin' Zueljin coming by to hang out and give us some insight into what makes Zueljin Zueljin. You know what? I didn't even ask. I didn't even ask where he got his name. That was another question I should have asked. Where did the name Zueljin come from? Next time. Yeah, thank you guys for hanging out for that. Now it's time you get to just hang out with me. So, from a WoW character. There is no Dana, there is only Zueljin. Sorry I miss everybody popping in. Thank you guys for coming in and saying hello. How's everybody doing? Zool from Ghostbusters plus Cajun? Is that where it came from, really? Sorry, I heard noise. Cajun spiced. Yarp. The vape chick we called Zool? Who did we call Zool? I don't remember that funk shop. How's everybody doing? Happy Friday. Anybody have any big weekend plans? Should we change over to just chatting? It's terrifying. I saw that there was a talk show and podcast category, so I tried that one. We're going to go to just chatting. Let's see if it gets terrible.